You've tuned in to the Top 10 Garden Show with garden expert Ken Lain. Join the conversation daily as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with two T's, gardencenter.com. Or visit face-to-face throughout the week where he can be found at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
When cleaning up your yard. So I've got some roots that are growing almost on top of the ground, or they're running just underneath the soil, or they're a trip hazard. They're in the way. They're taking up parts of my garden that I don't. They're taking energy from there I don't want. And so, is it safe to cut a major root? This is like 6-7 inches. It's like a branch growing across the ground. It's absorbing water and nutrients from all over the earth and bringing it back to the tree. It's a cottonwood tree. Is it safe to cut that? If you're mowing underneath your mimosa and the mower is like hitting roots, is it safe to cut that out of there? Can you take that one root? Leave the tree, but just take that one root and get rid of it. And so I did cut the root out. I think of roots like that kind of like a branch up on like the top surface. So the roots underneath the ground have a similar pattern that grow underneath the ground. And so I'm root pruning basically like I would be branch pruning. So it's very safe to go ahead and cut that branch and then dig it out basically. I took a Sawzall, pretty much I broke out the power cord, took a foot-long blade and just went, because I don't want to dull up my a chainsaw. So I don't want that in the dirt, but the Sawzall, I don't mind as much. It's a cheaper blade, easier to get to, and quite honestly, it goes through that better. So cut it right back, and then I just chipped out or picked out the branch that's going away from the tree. If you're going to try to use a brush and stump killer, this is when it gets particular. You can damage the tree if you're putting a root killer. So if the plant is suckering, so elm trees, notorious for suckering, locusts, notorious for suckering. If you just cut the branch, that root would start growing again. And so you have branches coming up, you have new trees coming up all over the place. Even though you severed the root, it's going to sucker on you. So I actually pulled that cottonwood right out of there because I don't want it to be there. Plus, it's in the way. I'm tripping over it. I want it gone. So I took the extra time to try to chip it out. Now, if it's a really aggressive tree, it's suckering already, I would dab some brush and stump killer on the root that's leading away from the tree. I would never touch the stump where I made the cut that's going towards the tree because it will affect the mother plant. But once you make the cut, that root going out there into the gardens, I don't want that coming back. I want that thing dead. I want it gone. So I chipped out the biggest portions of it, and I poisoned basically the remaining root because it's going to want to come up later in spring, and I don't want to work that hard. And so while that cut is still fresh, I'll go ahead and dab almost full strength. You can put some it's called brush and stump killer. It's how you keep the major plants from coming up back at you. That's how you kill off oak trees and elm trees and things that are big, bushy, and they just aggressive. And so it's also very effective on killing off that root that goes away from the mother plant. Again, let me be very clear. Don't put that on the root, on the side of the root you cut, going to the mother plant. The plant will absorb it, and it will affect that mother plant. Will it kill it? I don't know. But it will affect branches next spring. You'll see it. But that's the perfect thing you want, going away from the tree. The rest of that root, I'm taking that thing out of there. The sap was still flowing on this root. And so we've been cold, but not truly cold. And so I think I'll just kill off the rest of that branch. So is it safe to cut a major branch, trunk, root, going to a major tree? And it absolutely is. Just like cutting a branch on the top growth of the tree. It's not going to affect it one bit. So if anything, it might help it grow better, especially if it's in the way, kind of exposed. So get rid of that thing. So thin it out. If you're tripping over it, that root does not deserve to be there. In fact, if there's a lot of roots growing on top of the ground, it's probably a water pattern. You're either got one or two things. You're watering too shallow and not very deep, and so the roots just have to come up for the water, or there's a major rock shelf, a caliche layer, something that's just underneath the roots where it just can't get down in there the way it wants. And so it's up on top of the ground, kind of going, well, I can't grow down. I guess I'll grow out. And so you'll get some roots that kind of come up like that. And it is perfectly okay to prune those things back. It's perfectly okay to poison that root if you don't want it to sucker again, especially those that are aggressively coming up already. You've already got Chinese elms coming up all over the place in the yard. You don't want more. And so if you don't do something about it, it'll just come up with a vengeance next spring. Anyway, that's how you deal with roots growing up in your gardens. And it's okay to do that any time of the year you want, especially in winter now. Be right back after this.
Hi, Waters with this week's Plant of the Week, our True Blue Fat Albert Spruce.
At just 15 feet, this is the ideal evergreen for small gardens, excellent in front yards with limited space.
The color is so blue all year long with the perfect evergreen shape.
Dense, durable, and loves the sun, so it works well as a windbreak, screen, or sound barrier, and only found at
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love the perfect blue spruce love to shop.
The Top 10 Gardener, your source for timely garden advice seasonally correct for the garden, guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.